Libby, it seems like these protests really, ignited really soon, spread nationwide. What do you think the reason for that is? Is it because of Joe Biden and his inability to come out, ahead of the curve and say and condemn this sort of speech or condemn this violence? He did weeks after, but that's only before it got to a boiling point. Or do you think it's the fault of these universities and some of these radical professors that they have on campus that are teaching this sort of hatred?
Well, we have seen for sure that this is something that's being taught at Princeton. You had professors coming out supporting the students who were going on hunger strike, saying that they were going to go on a fast as well, and that the students were just doing what they had been taught. The professors were very proud of themselves for having taught the students to engage in this kind of civil disobedience and to put their bodies on the line for a cause, that's a cause having to do with foreign wars, where the U.S. has funneled money into both sides of that war. So that's something that you don't hear either. But in terms of fault, I think the fault lies with the people who are allowing this to be effective. We saw shortly after these protests really got underway, the Biden administration decided to withhold congressionally approved military aid from Israel. They decided to put a halt on that aid, even though it had been part of a bipartisan bill that was passed in Congress to secure that aid for Israel. But Joe Biden basically caved to his far left flank and determined that, I think, because of these protests, the key thing to do was to withhold that aid. And you even saw some of the far left progressives like AOC coming out and saying, look, the protests are working. They withheld the aid that was approved. They withheld it. So keep going. And in that sense, I do think the continuation of these protests is Biden's fault because unlike some of the university professors who just are trying to ignore it, Biden is veering into it. He knows that he needs these voters, and withholding aid from Israel certainly seems to be a campaign decision as opposed to an actual executive decision.